don't know how much I don't know how much you teed up what we're doing tonight, Jim, but last week we did New York style, right? So we were outside with our outdoor ovens, uh, popping a couple New York style pizzas in there, which was a lot of fun, right?
It was. It certainly was. I had a blast. The Pizza Prince, the Frico Prince, both had a blast.
They both had cameos, right? Yeah. Curran's right here. Actually, there he is.
Hey, buddy.
He's watching.
Always
He's watching
good
from
to
the
see.
sideline. So, but we decided to bring it inside this week, right? So we're gonna do Detroit style. So I always like doing Detroit style more on an indoor oven, whether it be a home oven or I'm gonna do mine in the Univolt here. It's you really don't need a high temperature oven to do this style. Like many pan styles, you can do a pretty good one in a home oven that only gets to 500 degrees. So that's what we're gonna do tonight. So I had a par bake here that was frozen. This was from a couple weeks ago, leftover. This was actually from the event that we did in Brooklyn. Brought it home, froze it, and it's thawed out completely now, room temperature. So I'm going to take that out, throw it in the pan, and I think, Jim, you're going to make some dough. So
I'm going to make some dough, but first, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about par bakes real quick.
Yeah.
So par bakes, so Detroit style pizza. There's big debate on whether you cook your dough from a raw state with the cheese on top of it, or if you par bake the crust first and then let it cool and then put your cheese on top of it. So intense debate. Jimmy and I are both clearly in the team par bake category. I think it eats better for me. It's a little fluffier, a little lighter. It can be crispier. Certainly not as dense. Both are delicious, but I like a lighter pizza that eats a little bit more like a Sicilian than, say, cheesy bread, right? So I don't know what your thoughts are on par baking, Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the par bake, you get a lighter, fluffier product because you're baking the dough with nothing on it to weigh it down. So you get a nice oven spring when you're baking that dough just by itself. And then also you're basically baking it twice. You're gonna have a crispier bottom when you're baking it that second time. You sort of get that second crust. So you can see like this is pretty light. It's not super dark. Actually, there's a little bit of an air bubble there, so it's not dark at all right there. But it's pretty soft right now. It's not really gonna be not crispy, but when it comes out of the oven after that final second bake, you'll see when we go to cut it that it's gonna be pretty crispy.
On par bakes, sorry, I should let you get going here, but
Yeah.
on par bakes, the biggest question I get from people is how long do you bake it for? And I always have a hard time answering that with a specific answer because there's so many variables, different ovens, different recipes, different doughs, different sizes of pizza, and honestly, different desired results. So
Yeah.
walk us through how long you bake it for, or what are you looking for a finished par bake?
So if I'm doing it in a home oven that's 500 degrees, it'll be probably like 8 to 10 minutes at 500 for the par bake. Just because of the variation in ovens. Every oven's a little bit different. I have baking steels in my ovens too, so that'll kind of retain the heat a little bit more. So, but yeah, 8 to 10 minutes, 500. That's like a good starting point, and then you can adjust from there. Maybe you got to go down. Maybe you go 7 minutes at 475. Like you kind of adjust it, but that's sort of a good baseline to start with.
Some things I look for is it just starts turning that slightly tannish.
Yeah.
You're getting there. It starts maybe getting a little brown
Yeah,
spotting.
I'm gonna unwrap this right now too, actually, so you can kind of see like you can see how it's sort of just that light brown a little bit, and then like again the bottom is a little bit browner, but yeah, it's not quite fully brown. It's just a touch.
Mm-hmm.
I like another thing. This is pretty thin. Like I like my Detroits on the thinner side. I don't like them super thick. Just a personal preference. I do 275 grams for an 8x10. That's my dough weight. Some people go up into the 300s, 350 for that size pan. It's again, that's personal preference. And again, if your dough's thicker, you might have a longer par bake time too. So
Yeah, I remember I started out at 400 grams in an 8x10 just because I used a dough calculator, and it was like almost exhausting to eat because there was just so much dough there.
yeah,
So I use a little more dough because I don't think my hydration's as high as you.
yeah,
But I'm at like 3 1/4 a lot of times because I do like a slightly thicker and a slightly denser. But
yeah.
um, I've had yours. Yours is kind of like eating a crispy cloud.
Yeah, again, it's another thing. It's sort of a personal preference. Maybe you want it a little bit thicker, maybe you like it a little bit thinner. You can play around with it. There's ways to adjust it and figure it out as you go. So it's part of the learning process, right? Getting to a desired result of what you want to do.
Exactly. Shout out to Jeff Taylor, who is telling me to remove my Phillies hat. That's not going to happen. And
I got the Phillies on in the background right now. We're getting smoked by the Mets 7-3. Yeah, I got my Phillies pin on my apron here too.
there you go. And Chumpies, hello Chumpies, thanks for watching. And I see Antonio, who is hooking us up with some of our ingredients and tools and things for the class, is watching. Antonio, thanks for joining in.
Awesome. So yeah, so should we get started here?
Let's roll.
I think my oven's warmed up. The other thing, another point, and we'll get into this as we proceed, but I always do sauce after the bake, post bake, after the pizza is cooked. So I have here I got my sauce in a pan. It's gonna be warm in here on this hot plate, which I'm gonna turn on right now. So that's gonna warm. That's gonna warm while we're baking. So.
Okay. Are you cooking it or warming it?
I'm warming it. I don't really cook my sauce. I just warm it through. That's another thing. It's kind of like a personal preference type deal, right? I mean, some people like to cook their sauce and really like cook it down and get it super like thick and like, I don't know, kind of concentrated, but I don't like that flavor of like a cooked down sauce. I like it more fresh. Like, with the Stanislaus tomatoes, they're so good. Like, I feel like when you cook it down, you really lose a lot of the freshness and the good fresh tomato taste. So you'll see, I really don't add anything to my sauce. I throw a few sprigs of fresh basil in the tomatoes and just throw it in a container in the fridge and just let it sit. That's it. A little bit of salt and pepper. And that's really it. I mean, I do add a little, and I'll get to this too. This is my pizza dust. This is a little mixture of some oregano and basil and some other stuff here and some Parmesan cheese. So I'll shake that on pre-bake just to give it a little bit of punch.
The pizza dust.
Yeah, it's the pizza dust.
You gonna trademark that?
So we can get into it here. So I can here. Let you know what, I'm going to take my phone. I can just show you the mise en place here. So we got so I have my cooling rack we're gonna use after the bake. When the pizza comes out, we're gonna throw it on the cooling rack to rest. I got my 8x10 Lloyd pan. Then I got my sauce warming. I got my cheese over here off to the side. My pizza dust, my pepperoni, because it's National Pepperoni Pizza Day, so we're doing pepperoni tonight. And then this is some more cheese I'm going to throw. I use 2 different kinds of cheese. This is the cheese that's going in the middle of my pizza. And then this is, Curran is the finisher. He does the locatelli at the end, the pecorino romano. That goes on at the end. And then we got our basil at the back. So we got all of our stuff set up here, ready to go. I'm going to adjust this down a little bit so hopefully you can see everything. So here we go. We'll put our par bake in the pan, and you'll notice another thing when you par bake, it's going to shrink a little bit. You can kind of see that gap. I don't know if you can see that. So see how it kind of moves around in there? It's not a tight fit. Don't worry about that. A lot of people freak out when they get a shrinkage in their par bake.
People don't like the shrinkage, Jimmy.
People don't like it, but it helps with the freak out because what happens is when you pack the cheese in along that side, it's going to melt down all the way to the bottom of the pan, and you're going to get a nice crispy edge all the way around. So I'm gonna start cheesing this one right now.
All right, while he's doing that, I want to welcome Clem and Rich to the video. Guys, if you have any questions about how to make Detroit style pizza or just any random pizza questions you might have, or questions about our upcoming pizza class, drop them in the comments. We want this to be interactive tonight. We want to be at your service. And, we also want to give you a little sample of what it will be like with Jimmy and I in the Lackawanna College Culinary Kitchen. Teaching you side by side how to make Detroit style pizza and New York style pizza. And I think really one of the cool things, like this is sort of one-way communication here, right? We're broadcasting out, showing you how to do it. But we'll be there right over your shoulder, right beside you, giving you feedback, taking your questions, and really, really having fun with it in the class. But we also want to give you kind of a sample here of what you can expect from Jimmy and Jimmy, or Jim and Jim, whatever you choose, whatever alternate ego, alter ego you choose. But
Yeah, it's gonna be super interactive. We're gonna do, everybody. It's gonna be hands-on, super interactive. So anyway, I'll show you. So I got my cheese. So this is my first cheese. I put this around the perimeter, and this is a grande Italian blend. It's mozzarella, cheddar, and provolone. And I do like 2 handfuls. It's about I think if I were to weigh it, it's probably about 8 ounces of cheese, not maybe 10. But I just do 2 big handfuls and put it around the perimeter, and then I just kind of press it in. Make sure it's going to stay in the sides, and then it's going to fall down in that gap when you bake it and it melts. And then I'm going to hit the middle here. I didn't have my usual cheese that I use for the middle. I usually do a grande whole milk diced, but this is grande fumella, which is a smoked mozzarella. So I had a little bit of this left over from a bag that I opened, so I'm going to throw this in the middle. So it's a whole milk smoked mozzarella. It's got like a really light smoky flavor. Should go good with the pepperoni, I think.
I would think so. I haven't dabbled with that.
Too bad you don't have smell-o-vision. You can smell like the smokiness. You can smell it?
Oh
yeah. Yeah, you can smell like it's like really subtle, really subtle. But it's a good product.
It almost smells like pepper.
So here we go. There's our cheesed. So the middle cheese that I put on top, very light. That's probably about 4 ounces of cheese in the middle, because it just spreads. It like once it melts, it's like just spreads really well.
So speaking of cheese, Jeff asks, can we use diced cheese instead of shredded?
Yeah, man. I mean, so here's the reason I do diced in the middle and shredded on the exterior. So I can tell them apart. Because if I got 2 shredded cheeses, because I use 2 different kinds of cheese. So I'm using the shredded on the perimeter and then the diced in the middle, because I'm not sure if the product I get for the perimeter, I can get in diced. I've always used shredded, but I know I can get the whole milk diced. So that way visually I can tell them apart. Like if you had both cheeses side by side and they're both shredded, you're not going to know which is which. There's a slight color differentiation, but you really can't tell. So that's why I do it the way I do it. So I can tell the cheeses apart just by looking at them.
Well, if you're slamming out 80 or 100 pies a night, you really need the visual cues.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stop.
And the dice too. I mean, the dice is really good for portion control. Like you can really, you can use a cup. If you want to use like a portion cup, you can scoop it with a portion cup. So you're exactly getting that 4 ounces if you want. I just do it all by visual. So I just, spread it around. If it looks good, like I know generally what it is. So, but yeah, the portion control for diced is super easy. So, all right. So I'm going to hit it with the dust now. Just going to do it a quick little sprinkle. And then we're going to throw on our pepperoni. And this is Hormel Rosa Grande. The retail version you can get is like the Rosa Grande or the Hormel Cup and Char. You find in any grocery store. Everybody, I mean, you can find it pretty much everywhere. My local Giant superstore or supermarket has it. I'm sure any of the local stores up by you, Jim, have the Hormel.
Yeah, It's very easy to find. You can also find it in the swag bag at our class, which Hormel is donating. They're a sponsor of this event. So everybody's going to take home some Hormel cup and char or cup and crisp pepperoni. We're
Yep.
also going to have the cup and char. I believe the Rosa Grande. They weren't specific on which one they're sending.
Yeah,
But well,
they're essentially the same product. One is food service and one is retail. So this is the food service version. The retail's pretty much the same. You want a piece of pepperoni? Oh,
So good.
there.
Yeah, like,
All right.
little bit of spice to that, right? Just not too much, but there's just a little
Yeah,
little.
yeah. It's got a nice. Yeah, it's got a really good flavor. So, and with these, because they cup and they kind of shrink a little bit, I like to do like really good coverage. Just cover the entire, so you can't even see any cheese.
wait, what?
Just cover the entire middle of the pizza like that. Like you can't see through it. It's just basically overlapping. Because you'll see once we bake this, they'll shrink up. That's one of my pet peeves when I get a pepperoni pizza. If there's only like a couple pieces of pepperoni on like per slice, I'm like, "Where's the pepperoni?" Right?
Right. I think well, we know cup and char pepperoni is more expensive than the lay flat stuff, and we know that it takes more to even cover the pizza. So if people complain about the cost of pepperoni, just realize if you want full coverage like that, I mean, what is that? How much pepperoni would you say that is? Like a third of a pound, something like that?
No. That's probably, I've measured it out. It's probably like 4 or 5 ounces.
4 or 5.
4 ounces,
So
maybe. Yeah, third. Yeah, I guess about a third of a pound. Yeah,
quarter
4 ounces.
pound, something like that.
Yeah,
But it's expensive for that 8x10 pizza. Like
yeah,
quarter pound. That's like half a bag basically of the retail.
yeah. Oh, yeah. The retail is super expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
I buy it's a 5 pound bag, so I guess no, it's a 10 pound bag, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. I think they're 12 up here, 12 and a half, because it's a
Yeah.
25-pound
So
case.
yeah, you want to get some good coverage on there, and then I got my sauce is actually getting pretty warm. I'm going to turn it way down. I have my volt set to 550 with temperature, and I am at like even top and bottom heat. So I can adjust the top and bottom heat on this oven. You can go more bottom than top. It's sort of like a deck oven where you can, there's two elements in there, and you can control them kind of independently. So yeah, I'm going to pop it in here. It's going to bake for we're going to do about 10 minutes at the final bake here. So see if you can see this all right. Slide it in. Set my timer.
Hey, Mike, thanks for the feedback. Jeff says that amount of pepperoni is just a starter for Eddie's Pizza.
Oh yeah, Eddie's the pepperoni. Eddie's the pepperoni. Back up. Eddie's the pepperoni king of Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So
He
you're
does
gonna
agree.
bake you're gonna bake that off for about 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. I got this in for 10 minutes. So if you want to make your dough
Yeah, we're
while
gonna do
this is baking,
we'll do it quick. I just want to give another plug to another sponsor here because Urban Slicer is another sponsor. And for those who, even if you take the class and you're still stressed out, which we're going to take all the stress out of making dough. It's not voodoo magic. You can do it. But for those that want a gateway drug into making pizza dough, Urban Slicer makes this product. I'll show you what it looks like. You go rip the top off, dump this, take your water, dump this. This is my drinking water. We're not going to do that. And you mix it and the dough is done. That's it. That's as simple as this is. And it's a legitimate, good quality pizza dough that actually handles, tastes, and looks like pizza dough. So these guys, we're happy to have them on board. We also have their sauce here too, which is awesome. I like to use it as more of a tomato paste to season up my crushed tomatoes, but that's there too. So let's go through the quick process here of making dough. You can see how when I'm in a hurry, this is how I'm going to make pizza dough. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take, this is 600 grams of cold water. So I'm just going to dump it in. And I'm going to leave out just a couple tablespoons here. because KitchenAids are not perfect dough mixers. Okay, so I like to splash that down the side here. This is going to be my like single, easy to do, simple process that I like to use. So 600 grams is going to be 60% of our total flour weight, which is 1,000 grams. Okay, so here we're going to do. I'm going to do half a percent of yeast for this one because I'm going to want this in about 48 hours.
And
So
we're going to
that's
get into this. We're going to get into this a little bit more in detail in the class as well. The baker's percentages and you know, not too crazy. We're not going to like get into the science too much, but just figuring out how to do a recipe with baker percentages.
yeah, it's super important. We're going to get all into this, but we can't give it all away here, Jimmy, right? So, but anyway, so I dumped my 5 grams of yeast in, and I'm going to use this dough whisk, which you don't know, but I just purchased another dozen of these, and I'm going to give them away at the
Oh.
class too, right? I feel like I'm in an infomercial at the moment. So, um, so anyway, this dough whisk is awesome for dissolving your yeast, but also if you don't have a mixer, it's fantastic for making dough by hand. It's just makes it very, very simple to do. All right, so we're simply going to mix that until the dough, the water froths a little bit. That means the yeast is ready to go. It's activated, so to speak. Okay, then I'm going to bring in my flour. Sometimes people like to add sugar or malt. I'm not going to do that because I'm using this in my Ghazni Arc this weekend. So we're going no sugar, no malt, because that'll make the pizza burn too quickly in my outdoor pizza oven. Let's see if I can do this without a mess here.
What
Well,
and what kind of flour are you using there, Jim?
we are using the Caputo Blue. I think it's called, it's a blue bag. I'm not sure. The retail is called something else. The blue is called Pizzeria
Yeah.
flour. The blue in the commercial. I have 50-pound bags of flour in my garage, so I forget what that one's called. But maybe somebody could help us.
Jeff messing with me, trying to tell me there's smoke coming from my oven.
Oh man,
I have
this
set
guy.
I have set the smoke alarms off. This is like the pizza lab. This is in my basement. So I have set the smoke alarms off down here. When I'm doing a Neapolitan pizza in this at like 850 degrees, that can get a little hectic. But you shouldn't be smoking at 550.
I hope not. Also, here's a pro tip. If you want to use your mixer, plug it in first. So just for those at home, you know, a little troubleshooting there if it doesn't turn on like what just happened. I like to start out on speed number 2, get this thing to start coming together. Now, my dough process, now this is my speedy dough process, but I like to really take my time when I'm making dough. So what I'll do is I'll just I'll mix for about 2 minutes max until we have like what's called a wet shaggy dough. And then I'll let it rest for like 5 minutes, and I'll just kind of let it get into like an autolus and let the flour kind of do its thing, soak up some of that water, build some gluten structure. But here we're just going to go straight through. So while that's mixing, I'm going to measure out my salt, and we're going to make that 2% or 20 grams. And we're measuring everything on this handy dandy scale here. You can hear how quickly, well, I don't know if you can hear how quickly that my mixer is starting to work a little bit harder, which it's all coming together already. So we're going to add our salt here.
I can see that the table's shaking, so you can tell the mixer's working a little harder.
Working a little harder.
Yep.
And then that extra water that I saved, I like to add it now. And then that kind of grabs everything off the side of the bowl. It's kind of integrating now. And then once that integrates, then I like to add the oil last. That's sort of my order of operations. I don't know if your order is any different, Jimmy. You know, a lot of people have theories like that the salt and the oil will harm the fermentation process while it's in the gluten development. Even like a coarse salt can tear the gluten fibers, I believe. So, but this is the sort of order of operations I do it. Again, we have a much more thorough and complete method that we're going to teach. Actually 2 different methods, right? I'm going to teach a little simpler New York direct ferment, and you're going to do a little pre-ferment.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little pre-ferment with a Polish, which is what I do with my Detroit. So Yeah, so we're doing 2 different doughs and 2 different style, like 2 different methods of dough too. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool. Jeff said
Yep.
you add sugar to the pizza or to the dough. He must have missed that part of the segment. No, Jeff, he's not adding sugar to this one because he's going to be cooking it in his outdoor high heat oven. Um, if you're going to be cooking it in your home oven, you might add some sugar, get a little bit more
Yeah, I
caramelization.
do, especially on like my pan fried Sicilian where I want that nice deep golden brown,
Yeah,
and I'm cooking it in my home oven
I'm
right now.
actually going to go in here. I just noticed I'm at like 3 minutes left here. I'm just going to go in and rotate this 180 degrees. And you can take a quick look here and see how she's doing. You can already see how those pepperonis are shrinking. Nowhere near the coverage we had to begin with. Probably could have put some more. Probably could have put a little bit more on there actually.
I heard
For
that
pepperoni,
sizzle.
for National
Sizzle there.
Pepperoni Day, I probably could have thrown a little more on there.
Mhm. So, I started. The reason I'm comfortable with how long I'm mixing this dough right now is because I started with super cool water. Like I had ice in it. It was, it was probably like
Yep.
55, 60 degree water, maybe. It was really cool. And I also had the flour inside, not in my garage. So we started with like, 68 to 70 degree flour. So gives me a little mix time because if we mix this too long, friction creates what? Heat. And heat is not good once you go past 70, 72 degrees and the dough will break down. You might as well throw it away at that point, right? It's not coming back. Never going to be smooth. So we're going to keep mixing this thoroughly here in the bowl. And I didn't bring my thermometer down, but I'm feeling the bottom here and still has a nice cool feel, clearly below the 70 degrees.
That's a good point. That's one thing that a lot of people don't think about is the dough temperature and temperature of the ingredients that are going in. Because like, if you're starting with warm water or warm flour, like that flour was out in your garage and it's 80 degrees in your garage and you're starting with that, there's formulas out there to actually figure that out if you want to get really nerdy about it. But you got to think about it. Like the temperature of the stuff you're putting in is going to affect the temperature of it coming out. So that coupled with the friction of the mixer and the KitchenAids actually have a ton of friction. Like they just beat the dough up the way they sort of drag it around the bowl. A spiral mixer, which is more geared toward pizza dough, is a little bit more gentle and creates a lot less friction. So there's a lot less heat created when you're making dough in one of those mixers. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider. Starting with ice water is definitely a good way to do it. Keep your temperature down.
Especially in the KitchenAid. KitchenAids are great kitchen tools. They are actually not great dough mixers. Really, they're truly not.
Yep.
No, I use it constantly. But if you think at home, if you're going to stick your ingredients in a KitchenAid bowl, turn it on as I just did, and get beautiful, smooth dough by the time you're done mixing, it's not going to happen. It's
All
just
right,
not going to happen.
I don't know if you hear my timer going off here, but I'm gonna let this go like another minute or two. So here, I'll show you what I looked at here, just to turn to think that this needs to go a little bit more. So I'm looking. I don't know how good I can do this. I'm looking at the perimeter just to see how the edge is caramelized, and you can hear it. I mean, you can hear that sizzle, and you can kind of see how it's caramelized a little bit, but I'm not liking. There's a couple spots that are just not quite there yet, so I'm just gonna let it go a little bit more. And the top cheese is nowhere near burnt yet. It's still pretty light. So I'm just gonna go in like another minute and see where we end up.
I think that's a huge point there, though. You set it for 10 minutes, and everybody just wants to know how long. They want to set it and forget it. Pizza is more of an active process to me. It's you're there, you're nurturing it along, and that's what I love about it, because it's not just this simple throw it in and I'm done. It can be simple. We will make it simple for you in the class here, and we're trying to break it down for you. But it isn't that simple where you just turn the knob, set the timer, and go. It's not. And but that active process makes it so interesting. And really, you never have the same two pizzas twice, unless unless you go to Domino's or something. But and I
Yeah,
don't
that's a
want
good
the
point.
same pizza twice. Like I really don't. Like there's character in it, and I always say every pizza's a story, right? It's a moment in
Exactly.
time. And I still remember the first time I tried your pizza, right? It was a great moment in time. I met you for the first time. The godfather of meat was there. It was just a great time, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
also the pizza was awesome. I had this very pepperoni pizza that you're about to pull out. I think that's what makes it special. We just want to give people the tools to do this themselves and
So
to
I'm gonna bring this over here for you guys. Let me see. Can I flip me around? Yep. Here we go. So here it is. Get a little steam on the lens. Still sizzling. So what I do is when you pull it out, you got to let this thing settle down a little bit and rest. Just like you would if you're cooking a steak. You don't want to cut into it right away when you pull it off the grill. You got to let it rest and sort of let those juices redistribute. Same type of thing with the pizza. You got to let this thing cool down and let that cheese set, because right now, it's coming out of a 550-degree oven. The cheese is still 550 degrees. So we want to let this sort of set and caramelize, just caramelize a little bit more, because if we try to take it out of the pan now, it's just going to fall apart because the cheese is still like molten lava. It's just super soft. So, and you'll see the longer it sits, the bubbling slows down. Um, we're probably going to let it sit about, I don't know, it's probably about 3 minutes to rest. And that's another feel thing too. I mean, just kind of keep an eye on it. You see it, the bubbles stop, kind of listen for it. Kind of, you can kind of also see along the edge, and I can actually show you here. This might not come through, but we'll see here. I'll try to see if my lighting's good. You can see where the Frico is almost starting to pull away from the edge all by itself. I don't know if you can see that, Jim. See how there's almost
I can't.
some sap?
That little
There's almost like,
separation is key.
yeah, it's almost, and that's the beauty of the Lloyd pans. They're so nonstick that it's already on its own wanting to come out of the pan. So the more you let it sit, or a couple more, another minute, it's gonna come right out, and we're gonna get to that.
So just to kind of give you a visual of what that looks like. This is what the pan sort of looks like from the inside. And then Jimmy has this spatula, which he actually designed, also included in the class, right?
Yes,
He's
sir.
going to get behind that edge that he's trying to show you there with this sharp bladed spatula. He's going to get behind that edge, slide it down, and then it will literally just pop up, right?
Yeah.
This is cheese literally burned against the side of the pan, or not burned, but charred and caramelized.
Yeah.
And it will pop right out, right? So we'll see. Although this is live, you can't hide it live, Jimmy. So
I know the
better.
pressure's going to be on here, so we'll see. That's the beauty of this spatula. It's so sharp. I mean, this is sharp. It's like a knife. I mean, you can we were using the spatula to cut mozzarella at the event we did in Brooklyn. We were looking for a knife and we couldn't find a knife, so we was like, just use the spatula. So we were just like cutting mozzarella with the spatula. So yeah.
Yeah. Wish I had a second one. Or no, I do have a second one upstairs. I could do some hibachi with it. So like very,
you get a onion volcano going. Okay, so here, look, I'll give you a close up here. We're sitting here for probably what, 2 to 3 minutes, and there's no sizzle anymore, no more bubbling, completely quiet, right? So this is just about ready to come out. So flip me back around. And then another tool for these is these pan grippers. I mean, you can use a towel too. Like if you don't have the grippers, you can just use a kitchen towel and hold the other side of the pan like this and come in. I always like to hold the opposite side of the pan that I'm working. So like if I'm going to go in and I just kind of leverage against the side of the pan with the spatula and go in and just slide it right down along. The grippers give you a little more leverage because you're not right up against the pan holding it. It's like you're out here, so you got a little bit more leverage to work with. What I'm talking about. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, so I prefer the grippers, and again, just grabbing against, and then you sort of like I'm going in and I'm pressing against the side of the pan, and I'm going in, and then I'm just sliding and pressing, like using that leverage, and you can see like how I'm just going right behind that Frico, like super easy. Let me bring it a little closer here. So let's see if I can do one like holding it up here. I don't know if that's gonna work. Because I need the leverage on the bottom. Here, let's do this. My bar. Let's see. Can't get in there. All right. Bring it back here. So last side, just keep rotating it around all four sides of the pan. Make sure it's loose, kind of pulling up on the bottom as you go. And then I'm going to pull it out. Oh, I'm sticking in this one corner, so I'm going to come in here and just make sure it's free. And then we're going to pull it out onto our wire rack to cool. And there it is.
Look at that Frico.
So you got that nice, and you can see how it's all staying intact because we let it cool down. It's all staying nice and straight. It's not falling all the way around. You can see it goes all the way down to the bottom. That's because you got that gap in there. So you get that nice cheese all the way to the bottom. So we just want to let it cool on the rack. Again, I mean, this thing is still pretty hot. It's not quite ready to cut into it. I mean, you know how pizza is when you get it. Like, you don't want to burn the roof of your mouth off like molten lava, right?
I mean, I'm a big dumb animal. I tend to go right in.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, sometimes you just gotta, because it is what it is, and you're hungry. But yeah, we'll let this cool a little bit more, and then we'll cut it. So where are you at with your dough process? Did you finish the mix, or?
I did finish the mix. Now, typically, what I would do would be to sit this on the counter and flip the dough or flip the bowl on top of it. I didn't do that because I was enamored with what you were doing over there and that beautiful Frico. But it's okay. It hasn't been out that long, right? So let me just get the dough up close to the camera and just show you. This is a fairly thorough mix in a KitchenAid, and I don't think anyone would say that is like a beautiful dough, right? Like, it's clumpy, it's rough, it's a little bit tacky. You can see it's very weak still. It's super weak. So we wouldn't want to make a pizza with this right now, because weak dough doesn't really hold air in, right? It's like a balloon, like a brittle balloon right now. And we want a nice elastic balloon. So what we're going to do is, like, people, when they hear the term knead, they sort of groan a little bit, but I really don't knead too hard. Like, I do it in kind of phases, right? So I knead my dough a little bit, and you can already see like just what a little bit of kneading does for it, right? Much smoother there.
And that's sort of that surface tension you're creating by moving it across the countertop, right? It's sort of, you're almost like creating a skin on the outside as you're moving it.
Exactly. So, I mean, you can sit here and work it like crazy, or you can just kind of let time be your friend. I like to cover it up. I'll go, maybe take a 10-minute nap, catch an inning of the Phil's game or whatever, right? And then we'll come back. We'll do the same thing up to 3 times, about, 3 times, but I'm only maybe kneading for a minute at a time, sometimes 30 to 45 seconds. But when we're done with this 3-phase process, you get a very strong dough, and it's much more workable, and your final product is much better.
Yeah.
So that's my process so far. But now we need, like, unless you have a fast forward button, I just got to kind of hang here and wait.
Well, while you're doing that, I guess I can finish mine off, because this is cooled down, and I can sauce it, and we can do the finishing. I don't know if Curry wants to come over and do the pecorino.
That's our guy.
He's laying on the couch over here. He just looked up. You want to do the basil and the pecorino?
Cosmo's here, Scott's here, John's here, Jeff. Look at all these Paul's here, Kevin, Laura. Yeah, thanks for joining in, Stephen, Lori. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, guys, about what we're doing, drop them in the comments. Any entertaining thoughts or criticisms here, just join into the discussion because we want this to be interactive and we want to be at your service.
Yep. So okay. So here's what I like. I usually like to when I'm making these. If I'm making these at the tap house where I usually make pizza once a month in production, I will cut it before I sauce it, just because it's sort of our workflow and it's a little bit cleaner. Like you're not getting sauce all over your cutter. It just kind of works a little bit better. So I'm going to take my board here and I'm going to transfer it off of my rack. Let me move this over here so you guys can see a little bit more. I'm going to tilt my camera down, maybe.
What's up with the rack, Jimmy? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so it's just a cooling rack. I just threw a little piece of wax paper in here so it would look nicer. But it's just like a quarter sheet pan with a rack. You get airflow. You don't want to take a pizza out of the oven and just throw it right onto a pan like that's sitting flat, because you're gonna get condensation and it's gonna make your crust, it's gonna be soft. It's not gonna be crispy. And we did the same thing with the New York style, right? As soon as you pull it out of the oven, you want to throw it on a rack or a screen or something that's going to give you a little bit of airflow underneath because it's going to preserve that. And I can actually show you here before I sauce it. You can see all that cheese went underneath.
Look at that.
So yeah, it just helps preserve that crispiness, and that's how we serve them too. I mean, we put them on these quarter sheet pans. These are like 9 by 13. The pizza is 8 by 10, so they're perfect. So we'll cut it and then we'll serve them right on these trays like this. So, we grab the cutter, and this is another Frico King special, right?
Very nice.
So I'm going to cut it.
I just sharpened mine. It's like
we do our product placement. So I like to do 6 slices. You can do 4, so everybody gets a corner. So just 1 down the middle, 1 each way. I like to do 6. So I do 1 down the middle, the long ways, and then 2 the other direction. And then we'll get our sauce here. Let me give my blade a little white. Actually, I'm going to go back to, we'll do this like we do production. I'm going to go back to my wire rack. Get my board over here.
Brian says your pizza looks delicious.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So I'm going to sauce. I got my Stanislaus 7-Eleven here with a mixed with a little Super Dolce. So, and I like to do just like a little dollop on each slice.
Again, for those that are just joining, Jimmy, it's on the stove, but he says he doesn't cook his sauce. He warms his sauce on the stove.
Just a light warm. It's the just real low temperature. I mean, this you can see it steaming. I don't know if you can see the steam on the video, but
yeah, I can see it.
And then we're gonna hit it with some pecorino romano, some locatelli.
Making it rain.
Make it rain. And then we're also going to hit it with some fresh basil. I'll grab some of my basil over here. And then, we just, these are pretty big leaves, so I'll just tear them and throw a little bit on each piece.
I think the Frico Prince does a little better job there, Jimmy, but
He told me he didn't want to finish it, so I got to take care of it myself.
You're doing an adequate job there.
There you go. My basil's not as pretty as the Frico Prince, but there you go. There's the finished product. You can see the Frico all the way around. That looks nice with the light.
That looks fantastic.
I gotta grab some plates. Curran, you want a piece of pizza?
Serving it up.
grab a plate over here.
Steven just joined. He said, "What's in the sauce?" I think Jimmy said it was Stanislaus 7-Eleven and
So I'm a huge fan of Stanislaus products. Mostly, I mean, you can get away with just 7-Eleven right out of the can. I mixed it with another Stanislaus product called Super Dolce, which is like a thicker. It sort of thickens it up, which is really nice. I like a thicker sauce so it doesn't spread so much. I mean, you can see, like I spooned this on, it's still staying intact. Like it's not spreading. It's like right where I put it, which I think helps preserve the crispiness too. Like if your sauce is running all over the place, it's going to get down in there and really affect kind of affect your final products. But there's let me see the crumb.
beautiful crumb.
Yeah. So, and then yeah, just some fresh basil, salt and pepper, and olive oil. That's it. Super simple. I don't cook it. Keep it fresh. I just warm it, and then that's it.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you guys enjoy over there, and I'll just kind of keep working on my dough here. So I think it must have been. I think we finished mixing this about, I don't know, must be 20 minutes ago, right? 15, 20 minutes ago. We let it rest for about 10. We kneaded it about 5 minutes ago, give or take. And we're gonna knead it again here. And you can see, remember it was very sticky last time I touched it.
Yeah.
I can't even make it stick right now, right?
Yeah.
So much easier to work with. And now we're just gonna knead it. Now, some people like to kind of knead over the front and push with the palm. Maybe I'll back up a little bit. They knead over the front and push with the palm of their hands down. I sort of like to fold down and into it and roll forward. That's kind of my style. But I basically, as Jimmy said, you're building that surface tension. And if you remember what that looked like, you can see that like there's not even really wrinkles in this at this point, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to keep going because I just need a little bit more strength and a little bit more gluten structure. But the time factor of what we're doing while we're waiting, we're not being lazy. We're just letting the gluten do its own thing.
Yep.
We're just letting it build that gluten network.
Time is an ingredient as well.
It is. It really is. Time, temp, and love. We'll say love's an ingredient, right?
Yep.
But
I'm gonna take a bite of the I'm gonna see if the mic will pick up the crunch here. I'm just gonna go right on the Frico here.
I did hear it. I do think I have noise canceling on, so you beat the noise canceling. So yeah, I don't think there's anybody thinking I don't want a slice of that. But Jeff says I'm very needy when I need. I don't know if that's a deep thought or what. John wants us to send a few slices to Mount Carmel. And I think, Steven, did we answer your question on what's in the sauce? Oh, Jeff's now asking if John lives in Mount Carmel. So on the dough here, we're pretty much done with the dough process. So what I will do is one more knead on this. And then what I like to do is leave it covered for about 20 minutes after the final knead. And then a lot of people do a bulk ferment, which is like leave it out in one big ball, so to speak, right? So if I were to just put this in the bowl and cover it, that would be called a bulk ferment. However, I'm not going to use all of this 1,000 grams of flour. So actually it's 1,600 grams of dough all in one shot. That would make a huge pizza. So I'm going to portion this up, and I intend on making 12-inch pizzas with this. So that's about a 250 gram dough ball. I like a little bit thicker crust on my 12-inch pie, a little sturdier crust. You can go as low as 225 on a 12-inch pie, depending on how far you want to stretch it. So I'm going to portion this up after this next knead, and then I'm going to ball them up nice and smooth and put them right in the refrigerator. And that is a process that most pizzerias, at least the ones I've worked in and talked to, use. Is they make the dough, they portion the dough, they put the dough right in the cooler after some couple hours of out at room temperature. If it's in the summer, it goes right in the cooler. You have to adjust. In the winter, you might leave it out for 4 or 5 hours. Or if it's the summer and you're in an air conditioned environment, you would leave it out for a little bit longer too. So it's all about controlling variables. But if we're keeping it simple here, Jimmy, I'm going to knead the dough one more time. I'm going to portion it up, and it's going to go in the fridge because over the this course of an hour that it's going to be out, there's been enough time for the yeast to sort of activate and start the fermentation process. If you put it in immediately, like if you just mixed it and put it in the fridge, your dough may not rise depending on the type of yeast you're using, or it's just going to take a very, very long time, and you're not going to get that nice gluten, that yeasty flavor, and you're just not going to get the rise you're looking for. So we want to make sure we get this. You want it to almost not quite double in size, but raise by about 60%. So it'll blow up in the bowl there, and then it's time to degas, portion, ball, and get in the fridge. That's how I do it. There are all kinds of different. I think I saw Jeff, who's on the call. He does like a 24-hour bulk room temp ferment, and he loves that. I saw him talking about that. And there's so many ways to do it, but this is the simplest way. When I'm in a hurry, get it done. But you really can't skip the kneading spot. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You need to knead the dough.
Yep.
Unless
there was a question.
Oh, go ahead.
We just saw a question here. Paul said, if you were just making a batch of dough, at what point would you stop and freeze it? So would you portion it here and then, ball it and then throw it in bags and freeze it at this point? Would that work?
I think it would. No, I wouldn't right at this moment. I wouldn't. I'd give it probably 20, 30 minutes as we were talking about, and then I would roll it. And then what I actually do, just to keep it round, is I'll put it in like a bowl, or I have these like Gosney dough trays, which have like little round dimples in the bottom of them.
Yeah.
And I'll freeze them in there first, and then the silicone lets me pop it out. And then after it freezes, I put them in a bag.
Yep.
You get the shape. It doesn't stick to the bag, and that's kind of how I do it. But that is the nice thing. Everyone always asks me, I have a recipe or two on my website. They're like, I don't want to make that much dough. And I say, why not? Just, just freeze it. You'll always have it on hand, and then you don't have to make the mess. So I like to make almost double what I need every time. Yeah. I don't worry about if I need, would you say 250 gram dough ball or 275. I don't really worry about it. I just need to make more than I need, and then we'll figure it out from there.
It also, it's easier if you're using a mixer like KitchenAid or whatever. It's easier to make a bigger batch, like whatever is optimal for that mixer. So like you said, that size you did in that mixer is probably pretty decent. Like you'd probably make more if you wanted to, but making less would be problematic, probably, right?
I've tried a 500 gram batch in this. No, it doesn't work. It's just
the dough just gets tossed around and it doesn't really mix it. It just gets stuck to the hook and it just kind of spins and doesn't really do anything. Yeah.
Yep. So your 5-quart mixer, a 500 gram batch is probably optimal with that. But this is, I think, a 7 or 8 quart in the professional series.
Yep.
And it just won't work. 1500 is the optimal size batch for this. 1000 is actually a little small for here, but 1500 grams works great for this particular mixer.
The beauty too with the Detroit's, like I said, that was a frozen par bake that I started with from like 3 weeks ago. You can just bake them off, par bake them, and then wrap them in plastic wrap and throw it in a Ziploc bag. I like to double bag them just to keep them so they don't get freezer burn. And then throw them in the freezer, and then you got a par baked crust that's ready to go. You pull it out. They thaw super quick too. They only take like an hour to thaw. You throw it on the counter, and they're like ready to go in an hour, and then you can just make your pizza and you're off and running. So.
Excellent. Jeff says he freezes it right at the point of use. So I think that's pretty similar to what we're saying there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really that's it. And the only thing I'll say is after refrigerating it, never use it straight out of the fridge. Just don't do it. Don't do it. At least an hour, if not 2. bring it out, let it get up to room temperature before you use it. Doesn't matter what style pizza you're making, like let it come up to room temperature before you do it. So if anybody has any questions on any of this, making the Detroit, making the dough, please hit us in the comments. What I just want to do now, you know, we very grateful for everybody tuning in. I just want to talk about the class, the pizza class, real quick, if we could. The top two questions I get from people, Jimmy, are number one, is it only for students? And I think maybe my marketing was a little incorrect, you know, maybe misleading. It's to benefit students. It's a
Right.
fundraiser for the students.
I think when people see that it's at Lackawanna College, they automatically think that it's only for students, but no, it's open to the public, and it's to benefit students for their scholarship fund in the culinary program. So, you know, we're kind of giving back to them and helping them with, you know, their culinary dreams to do what they wish with them.
Yeah. So, and what we get out of it is access to a really cool state-of-the-art kitchen and just a really awesome opportunity to just have some great people in a very small group, very intimate. And that was important to us, have a small group here, right? So, you know, we're giving you our recipes, we're giving you our instruction, we're giving you all this that comes in the swag bag here. This is the actual swag bag that will be full of stuff. But the other question I get here, and this is like, let's just put it right on the table. Why is it $400, right? So first things first, $0 goes to me. I'm volunteering for this.
Yeah.
Like, we are doing this for the college, for the students. Okay.
Mhm.
That's number one. Number two, you're getting over $150 worth of pizza tools and equipment that we've been working our tails off, working with great sponsors, our favorite products. Only the best stuff is what we're looking for, right? So we reached out to our favorite companies, and they said yes, we're gonna donate to this. So we don't have grande cheese on here, and we don't have Stanislaus tomatoes, but they're both, those are the products we use every day, and those are the ones we're going to work with in the class. Yep. And you know, if there's leftover, we'll let you take some home too. But like, so that we're really going to do this hands-on. You get a 4-hour class. Also, we have a virtual class that we'll have about 3 to 4 weeks after, because the rationale behind that is, boy, you forget, right? You're in class, 4 hours of material is a lot. You forget. And we want you to come back to us and tell us your pizza stories. Yep. And we want you to tell us what problems you ran into, and we want to fix them. And we want to hear about your pizza successes too. We want you to bring your photos, send them to us. And the other thing we offer here is pizza coaching along the way, right? So when you're making your pizza, when you go home, like, if I'm available via FaceTime, I'll FaceTime you and I'll walk you through it. If you want to message me before you do it and you're unsure of what we said in the class, you can message me, okay? So we're giving you the class, the coaching, and the follow-up class. The recipe book, it's like, we're trying to make this really comprehensive for people. Yep. And, you know, so I feel like we're putting a lot of value into it. Yes, $400 seems like a lot for a pizza class, but we are pouring our heart and soul into this. And we really want to create an opportunity, not only for a dozen people to come to the class, but for the kids that are benefiting from this money we're raising.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's, you know, I think we're really, you're getting a lot of value for what you are paying for the class. So, you know, not only just for the swag bag, like, put that aside, like, you're getting some really cool stuff, and it's all stuff we love and top notch. But yeah, just you know, you're helping kids with their culinary dreams, and you know, hopefully we'll get some stories from the kids that we help too. I mean, along the way. That's another thing we're hoping that we can follow up later on and get some insight from them. So, and we might even have a student or two talk at the class as well. I think we're working on that. I don't know if that's public knowledge yet or not, but maybe it's a little teaser.
Yeah, we are working on that. We do want to see, and maybe we can even get one in. We'll see what space we have.
Have somebody as an assistant or something. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we're very, very particular about everybody having their own space. Like, just to give you an idea, there's mixers for everybody. Okay, so it's not going to be Jimmy and I standing up there showing you how to mix like we just did here. You're going to get the dough. You're going to get the water. You're doing it all. And it's going to be your mixer in front of you. It's kind of like a science lab. It's a table for 2 people, and you're going to work on it, and it's going to be intense. And like I say, we're going to make you sweat, and you're going to learn. And the best way to learn for me is hands-on, especially with pizza. And when you're working with dough, you know how it is. Like, is this right? Am I doing it right?
Yeah.
And then we could tell you right there. That feedback is just so critical, I think. So I think that's our value proposition. We want you to make dough that looks a little bit more like this than like what you first saw coming out of the bowl. You know, we want you to have some confidence. We want you to like be able to recreate the pizza that you grew up loving. And I don't know, there's just something so special about the communal experience of making pizza for somebody and like a backyard party, stuff like that. It's just so much fun.
Yep.
And we want to give you the confidence to do that.
100%.
So, I mean, that's my pitch. We hope you'll come. Text me, DM me, hit me up. My email is nepapizzareview@gmail.com. You can text Jimmy, also email him. But we'd love to have you at the class and ask us anything you want in the DMs, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, follow up if there's anything you think of. You can reach us both on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll see what we can do to help you. And yeah, if you want to come to the class, go grab a ticket. I think there's a few available yet.
Follow JimmyHank, JimmyHank_pizza on Instagram, and you can see him here on the Facebook, JimmyHank Pizza on Facebook. Give him a follow, guys. The guy's doing amazing work there. You saw that, Frico. He's amazing.
And maybe we'll try to do the Instagram live next time, because that was a complete fail tonight, trying to do 2 platforms at once.
Yeah. Let's do Insta next week.
Yeah.